Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Uh, Before I start, I would like to say one thing. Last time I was talking about my mother when she was pregnant on me and she entered into the church and she prayed God that if it would have been His will, I would become a priest. And some of you, after the talk, they asked me, but how is your mama doing now that you are a Buddhist priest? I have to say she's very happy. She supports me a lot. She always comes when it's possible to hear my Dharma talks. And she also came to listen to Ocho-san talks when he went to Rome. So she's very happy, she's very supportive. This morning, I will talk about a very simple topic. I will talk about God. Of course, I will talk about God not from a theological point of view, that would have been crazy, it's a huge topic. But I will talk about my idea about God, or better, how the idea of God works in me, how the idea works inside of me. Of course, as I said the last time, I'm 100% Buddhist. And Buddhist, as you know, is a non-theistic religion. But being Christian for the most of my life, I left something. As I said the last time, my being Buddhist depends on my previous Christian background. It is nothing that you can rid of it very easily. And I think I'm not the only one, because I guess most of you have been engaging in Christianity or something, some other religious path. And of course, the idea, the concept of God is not something so simple to do, to get rid of it. I mean, for someone. Maybe some other people, they rejected it quite easily. Maybe some other people never had it. But some others do, and I'm one of those. Usually, even here in Sanshinji, when something happens and we get surprised, we say, oh my God. We don't say, oh my Buddha. So I think this is something that is deeply, deeply rooted inside of us. I didn't realize it quite well until something happened in my life. It was at the very beginning when me and my wife were starting to be into Buddhism, and there was this dear friend of us, a very nice lady, and she was a very religious one, very involved into Catholicism. And in a certain way, she was quite concerned about our interest in Buddhism. And one evening, she invited us, me and my wife, for dinner. And with our surprise, there was a priest, a very important one, quite important one, priest. And we were talking about this and that. And at the end, of course, we were into the topic. You are interested in Buddhism, and we were about to take Jukai. And in a certain way, not very very clearly, but it was trying to convince us, or otherwise to make us reflect upon this. And we were quite strong in our conviction, but at the end he said, okay, you are Buddhist, but we shall see who you will pray when you're about to die. And I thought, oh, you mean priest. Your tricks won't work on me. But this question came from time to time, like a kind of a koan, who I will pray when why I will be at the point of my death. In these days, since it has been 2 years that I'm engaged in a Christian-Buddhist dialogue at the Pontifical Institute for Interreligious Dialogue. It means the Vatican itself. It means that I go to the Vatican in front of St. Peter in these huge buildings with great empty halls, and we talk. There are this secretariat of the Pontifical Institute for Interreligious Dialogue, and there are some other priests, quite important, and they are we Buddhists, of course. And this is a very important thing, because for the first time, after long years, the Vatican is dialoguing with Buddhists. And most of all, it's important that the Vatican is making dialogue with the Italian Buddhists. Usually the Vatican prefers to make this kind of a meeting with Eastern, Oriental Buddhists, people from Japan or from Cambodia or something like this. It was the first time that they are making a kind of dialogue with the Italian Buddhists, and this is, I think, is a very good thing. It's not something that is taken for granted. And it's coming quite well. We are very smiley, very polite, and we organize something like meetings and something like lectures. And when we were about to organize one lecture, I asked to a priest. It is a quite important priest. He's the secretary of the CBI, that means the Italian Bishop Conference, Bishop. Okay, we are going to organize the lecture. Maybe we can, during this lecture, we can organize to share a prayer together, to make some prayers together. And he said very politely, okay, take it easy. Don't make too fast steps. Not all the bishops, they are happy that we are doing like this. And in a certain way, it was very sincere. And he said, in a certain way, you Italian Buddhists are a problem for us. You Italian Buddhists are an embarrassment for us, because you're apostasy. The apostasy means it's a sin in Christianity. It means that you reject God, you change your religion. And this is a quite heavy sin. And I realized, oh my God, I'm a sinner. Oh my God, I'm a sinner. I reject God. And immediately comes to my mind the images of Hieronymus Bosch hair with devils, with long fork that was hitting me. I was, oh my God, what will happen? And anyway, this kind of episode gave me some kind of turmoil. And I realized that the idea of God is deeply rooted inside of me, and from time to time it comes again. There is a famous Rinzai priest, it's quite famous, it's Yoshu Sasaki, and one time he said, there is no God, and he's always with you. And I say it fits with my situation. Because, okay, the idea of God has been installed in my mind since I was a child. I remember in my mind when I was a child, I went to the catechism, and we had to learn by heart very few words. The first of this is, who is God? God is the most peaceful being, is the maker of heaven and earth. I still remember in my mind. Last time I said that I didn't have many problems with Christianity, with Catholicism. But it's not completely true. Actually, I always had some kind of problems with the too much personalized figure of God. And it is something that gives me some kind of trouble, always gave me some kind of trouble. You see, especially in the Old Testament, God is quite well characterized, like having a personality. And it's not a good personality most of the time. For example, in the Exodus book, you can read, "For thou, you see, thou, for thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God." I remember I was in Ischia. Ischia is a very nice island in front of Naples. It's very, very little, very nice. And I entered into a little church. And when you enter into the church in Italy, Saturday evening, you will find that it's all the women mostly dressed in black, and that they are listening to the mass. And the priest was reading an excerpt from the Zachary book, and he was saying, "I'm jealous," it was God who was talking, "I'm jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy." And I saw these two women, they was looking at each other. Oh my God. And of course, in the New Testament, the image of God is quite a little bit different. But still, it's a more benevolent, more embracing one. But still maintains the kind of a figure, meaning the figure of the Father. And as much as a father can be a very beautiful figure, is still a figure, is still a personality. Linked along with this, there was my irritation, my annoyance towards those people who make themselves like a kind of I can say interpreters of God. As they knew him personally or very closely. You may see some preachers that say, "God wants that we do this, what the will of God is this, this, this." So I remember there is a Woody Allen movie called The Sleeper, and in this movie, Woody Allen is talking about Bill Graham, the famous American evangelist, and he says, "Oh, Bill Graham, very big in religious business. You know, he knew God personally. God, him, is complete wardrobe. Used to go on double dates together." And no, it's something linked to this kind of image of God. Like God is someone you can talk to. What do you want me to do? Something like this. As I went into Buddhism, I could finally get rid of all this stuff. Buddhism, of course, is non-theistic. It doesn't talk about God. There is no need for such a kind of definitions of anything. But, of course, very often comes in me the idea of God, or how can I say, something about God, the taste. And I have to say that the more I am into Buddhism, the more I have to deal with the concept of God that works inside of me. I think it's something that is in common for a lot of people, as I said, what we share the same Christian background. Sometimes we have the tendency to mingle, to mix, to merge, or to find some kind of connection between our idea of God and the way of Buddha. A lot of Buddhists, they go very strongly against this. There was one time I read on Dharma magazine an issue of a Zen priest, Italian Zen priest, that was warning against dangerous theistic tendencies in Buddhism. I mean the tendency to see some Buddhist concept in a theistic point of view. He was thinking about, say, Buddha nature, impermanence, suchness, Dharmakaya, Mahaprajna Paramita. Some Buddhists, I put myself in it, we try to kind of identify these things with a God quality. And he warned a lot against this. He said that he was warning against the intrusion of God into Buddhism. He said that if we force God into Buddhism, we no longer have Buddhism, but we have some kind of form of New Age, on some very strange and nice form of Christianity. So it was very hard. He was warning against what he called the intrusion of God into Buddhism. And I agree with him, of course, but still I have to deal with this. And still I ask why me and others like me, they feel the need to put God into Buddhism, to put God into Zen. And we search a way to get them close or to coexist with the idea of God. It's like we have a pre-existing notion of God, and we search for God in Zen because we are being in a certain way educated in believing in a strange dichotomy, God or bad, God or meaningless. We have the tendencies to believe that if we don't believe in God, we cannot be good. Meaning we cannot have a morality, we cannot have a compassion. Or the fact that God meaningless means that if we don't believe in the existence of God, the whole universe is seen like a machine that works, like a dead universe. This is something very rooted in me, and in Italy, for example, there are a lot of fundamentalist Christians that they say that Buddhism is something like this. Buddhism rejected the idea of God, so according to Buddhism, the universe is a dead machine. And they call the Buddhism the religion of nothingness. And they say that Buddhism goes towards the destruction. And they say that Buddhism, they have the feeling of love, the feeling of compassion. Of course, I think these are all traps, all tricks in our mind. But still we feel in our heart, within yourself, something, and we need it, this something. And we need to find it, whatever we can call it, we can call it God or Buddha or universal force. And it's quite curious that especially in modern times, and especially Zen teacher, they feel no embarrassed to talk about God. There are a lot of Zen teachers that talks about God. Ushiyama Koshoroshi often talk about God. And Taisen Deshimaru, he always talk about God. One of his most famous quotes was during Zazen, you are like God. And when he talked of himself, he said, "I come to France to help God." Quite a kind of Deshimaru statement. And indeed, a lot of Christians, they believe that Zen can be a very good way to approach and understand God. And a lot of Christians, they practice Zen meditation in order to get more close to God. I join also a very beautiful thing, that is the interreligious monastic dialogue. That means dialogues between monks and nuns of different religious tradition, Christian, of course, Buddhist, Hindus, and Muslim. And during one of these meetings, I was asked to give a brief introduction to Zen practice, and we did practice the Zen in the morning. And after this, a nun, a Christian nun, she said that it was beautiful, and that during the Zen, she was like being in the arms of Jesus. During this meeting, we all agree that all religions are different paths that reach the mountaintop. But what there is at the mountaintop? We don't know. Maybe there is a volcano that will swallow us all. That's a very good image. And during, I made some kind of research for preparing this kind of topic, and I found that there are some very deep connection between Zen, Buddhism, and that kind of philosophical and religious thought, that religious theologies, that is known as apophatic theology or negative theology. It means it's a kind of philosophical religious thought that raised at the very beginning of the Christian age and was developing during the Middle Age and go on. That is their attempt to clarify the religious experience about God, reflecting on what God is not, more than describing what God is. It's a path that goes beyond the realm of ordinary perception. And it's a kind of research that has its peak in silence. Maybe you know some of these theologies, Meister Eckhart or Sant'Agostino. And there are some quotes, there are some phrases of Sant'Agostino that I found they are very, very close to Zen. One of these is Merius Scitus Deus Niscendo. That means you know God better when you don't know. Or another one, Si comprehendis non est Deus. If you understand it, is not God. That I feel very, very close to Zen. Or there is one of the most important scholars, authors of apophatic or negative theologies, the Anonymous, who wrote a book that is called Caligo Ignorantiae. That means the clouds of unknowing. And he said in this work, he said that the only way to know God or whatever is to abandon all our preconceived notion and belief of knowledge about God, and to be courageous enough to surrender your mind and your ego to the realm of unknowingness. When I read this, I I was thinking about the Sandokai. You know, the very important poem was written by Sekito Kisen. And there is a verse of Sandokai that says, within light there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Within darkness there is light, but do not look for that light. That is the calico ignorantia, the clouds of not knowing. Or there is another author of Prophetic theology is the Pseudo Dionici. Pseudo Dionici means that he called himself Dionigi Areopagita. Dionigi Areopagita was one of the first disciples of St. Paulus, and so we are talking about the very beginning of the Christian era, but it's not true because Dionigi Areopagita didn't write anything. Pseudo Dionigi is an author of the 5th or 6th centuries before Christ. And one of his works is Theologia Mystica, mystical theology. And I would like to read you some quotes from this. And in this theology, in the mystical theology, it starts with a prayer, and he says, praying, supernal triad, deity above all essence, knowledge and goodness, guide of Christian to divine wisdom, direct our path to the ultimate summit of your mystical knowledge. When the pure, absolute, and immutable mysteries of theologies are veiled in the dazzling obscurity of the secret silence. And then he goes on, and he addressed to one of his disciples, and he tells him, leave behind the sensing and the operation of the intellect, and all things sensible and intellectual, and all things in the worlds of being and non-being, that you may arise by unknowing towards the union, as far as it attainable, with it that transcends all beings and all knowledge. It reminds me of Fukanza Zengi, in a certain way. And it goes on. We pray that we may come unto this darkness, which is beyond the line, and without seeing and without knowing, to see and to know that which is above wisdom and knowledge, through the realization that by not seeing and by unknowing we attain to true wisdom and knowledge. And then he goes on, and he starts like a kind of sutra. We therefore maintain that a universal and transcendent cause of all things is neither without being, nor without life, nor without reason of intelligence, nor is it a body, nor has it form or shape, quality, quantity or weight, nor has it any localized, visible, and tangible existence. It is not sensible or perceptible. Again, ascended yet higher, we maintain that it is neither soul nor intellect, nor has its imagination, opinion, reason, or understanding, nor can it be expressed or conceived. Since it is neither number nor order, nor greatness nor smallness, nor equality nor inequality, nor similarity nor dissimilarity, neither is standing nor moving nor at rest, neither are his power nor his power, and goes on. What does it resemble to you? A sutra. It's kind of incredible. And like the Heart Sutra, Pseudo Dionici demolish our usual concept and frameworks. And it's like he pulls the rugs from underneath our feet. So we have nothing to attach. I think there is some common or similarity way to Zen. There is I'm quite mad about searching all kinds of movies and documentaries about Buddhism, and I found in internet documentaries of the late 70s that is called The Long Search. And this was serial, and it was going towards all different religious traditions. And there was an issue that was talked about Zen, and the name of the issue was The Land of the Disappearing Buddhas. And the journalist, the reporter, he goes to Kyoto and visits a lot of kind of temples, and he reports about all different activities like Ikebana, like Kendo, like bowing, and then he goes and he talks about the Zen, and then he goes into a temple in Kyoto and he meets one Rinzai Roshi. His name was Kobori Narei Sohaku. He has a very gentle face, very nice speaking, and the reporter asked him, I saw that in this temple there are no images of Buddha. Why? And Kobori Narei he answered, there is Buddha for those who do not know what he is really. There is no Buddha for those who know what he is really. Again, there is Buddha for those who do not know what he is really. There is no Buddha for those who know what he is really. What does it mean? I think it means that there is Buddha. It means the idea of Buddha. For when we project our idea, our desire towards Buddha, when we make images of Buddha inside of us, and then there is Buddha means existence. Existence means separation. So for those people who don't know who Buddha really is, there is Buddha. Maybe there is in some place in Tushita heaven, in the Pure Land. But for those who know what Buddha is really, meaning that those who understand the emptiness of all phenomena, they understand Buddha. And for those people, there is no Buddha. And here, no Buddha means no separation, oneness. Buddha is in himself, he said, he who understands the 12 rings of interdependence origination understands Dharma. He who understands Dharma understands Buddha. So Buddha himself says Buddha is not Buddha. Buddha is emptiness. And we say in Zen, if you meet Buddha, kill him. Meaning that if we meet an image of Buddha, a projection of our ideas about Buddha, we have to cut it. So there is no Buddha for those who really knows what Buddha is. But I think this phrase can be reversed, meaning there is Buddha for those who doesn't know him. There is Buddha. Buddha is there for those who have, what can I say, the not knowing mind. For those who have beginner's mind, there is Buddha for them. There is no Buddha for those who know what is Buddha, for those who claim to know what is Buddha, for those who say, okay, Buddha is emptiness, but even emptiness and Buddha, nature can be concept, categories. There is no Buddha for those people. It's like trying to put Buddha inside the little box of our mental frameworks, of our mental patterns. I think that each of these interpretations, whatever side we can look at them, warn us to make an fixed idea of Buddha, of God, of whatever. They want us to try to consolidate what Buddha or what God can be. To not grasp, to not get attached to our concept about Buddha and God. It's for that reason that Dogen, in the Shobogenzo Zuimonki, he said, he was talking about practitioner, and he said, just cast body and mind into the Buddha Dharma, and practice without desire, either to realize the way or to attain the Dharma. Then you can be called an undefiled practitioner. This is what is meant by not staying where Buddha exists, and running quickly from where no Buddha exists. Here Dogen is quoting a koan referring to Joshua. The koan says, a monk went to bid farewell to Joshua. The master asked, where are you going? The monk replied, I am going to visit various places to learn the Buddha Dharma. Joshua took up the whisk and said, do not stay where Buddha exists. Run quickly from where no Buddha exists. So if we search Buddha, we have to not go where Buddha exists, but to run from where no Buddha exists. Meaning, I don't know. Reading this, I realized that what I've been trying to do for all my life, what I've been trying to do for all my life, is the same exact things that I was criticizing against the catechism. Trying to put God into a little box, or trying to put Buddha or Buddhism or Zen into a little box. I realized that I still make this kind of trap. The last Wednesday we had the Dharma study group, and at the Dharma study group, Ojo-san was talking about Zenki, total function. And I immediately, when I was listening, I really realized, oh, this is can be kind of description of God. All things working together in the net of interdependent origination. It's like some kind of force, some kind of energy still moving. And immediately I went back to Dante Alighieri, Divine Comedy, and the very last verse of the Paradise. I will read it. I will read it in Italian because it's very beautiful in Italian. All'alta fantasia qui manco possa, ma già volgeva il mio disio il velle, siccome rota che ugualmente è mossa, l'amor che muove il sole e le alte stelle. That means it's at the very end of Paradise, and he was contemplating God. And he says, here vigor failed, towering fantasy, but yet the wheel rolled onward, like a wheel, in even motion by the love impelled, that moves the sun in heaven and all the stars. This kind of moving of energy is Zenki for me. But still, I realize this is the whole trap. I'm trying to fix something. I realize that I must really stop and surrender to the unknown. Not always try to fix the matter of Buddha, about God. And I have to try to not to understand the darkness, as the Sandokai quotes. Not look for that light. I have to give up the need to be attached to the 100-feet pole, you know what I'm talking about, and try to step over and to try to stop to get cling to the pole of my conviction, of my knowledge, of my ideas, and try to fall into the silence, try to drown into the unknown, to be absorbed into the silence of the Zen. As concluding and returning to the tricky priest question, who you will pray when you be at the point of your death. I think that at the end, it's not so important who will I pray, but how will I pray. If I will pray with gratitude, or the rancor, if I will pray with joy, or if I will pray with sadness, if I will pray with the peace or with hunger, that is most important. That's who I will going to pray, and maybe it will probably depend on how I would have lived during my life. Of course, what is my deep wish is to have the kind of attitude Kosho Shiamaroshi had in his last day. And I will finish with reading his very last poem. Maybe you know quite well, but I will read again. Putting my right and left hands together as one, I just bow. Just bow to become one with Buddha and God. Just bow to become one with everything I encounter. Just bow to become one with all the myriad of things. Just bow as life becomes life. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your questions. I talk too much. Sorry about this. If you have any comments, anything.
There's an interpretation that I read someplace, and I don't remember, about the light and darkness in Sandokai, which I'm able to live in and deal with.
Please.
It's been very helpful. In that darkness, there is no discrimination. In light, there is a lot of discrimination. And so the two together, the one, we can't run to one, we can't, escape into one or the other. But they're the same, and we have to get rid of the idea, the concept of darkness is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we
Yes,
have
was a very important topic of Dogen, yes.
Yeah, and see it as the peace and the restfulness of non-objective thinking or non-subjective thinking.
I also am involved in interfaith work, and it's difficult because if you don't believe in God, I'm always asked to give a prayer or say a prayer. So it was difficult. And when I went to speak to Hojo-san, it wasn't about prayer. I spoke to him about the concept of God, and we're at a loss. And without hesitation, what do you think he said to me about what we can put there instead? He said, "What about the three treasures?" So once that came into place, I could see I think what I heard you say ultimately, that is your concept of Buddha large enough now to embrace the concept of God? You can hold them both together without any conflict?
It depends on what we are talking, what Buddha we are talking about. Of course, we are not talking about Shakyamuni Buddha because of course, he was a man. When I talk about Buddha, I talk about Buddha nature. I talk about we can call it the universal Buddha, the Buddha nature that is everything. That's what I talk about when I talk about Buddha. Of course, I do not talk about Shakyamuni Buddha. Yeah.
But I also, at the end, because I have the same conflict,
Mhm.
while I
Well,
was
welcome
not,
to the club.
yeah, I was not, I never really accepted God,
Mhm.
but when you said at the end, the last few sentences was, you said, I pray and I pray, so to whom are you praying? Which is what I found my difficulty. While I don't believe in God, I do find myself, and I am careful now not to go and take God's name in vain, but I still somehow pray, and I direct it towards what you're saying.
Mhm.
But at the end, you spoke about prayer
Yeah.
and prayer. So to whom are you praying?
Yeah, I'm planning to do a talk about praying, prayers. Yeah, but I can tell that there are different kind of prayers, of course. Sometimes I can pray when I'm in need of something, when I feel depressed, I feel desperate. So I can, for example, I can pray to the bodhisattvas, meaning that I don't worship a bodhisattva, but I try to connect myself with the energy of a Buddha mind, of Buddha nature that is inside me, that is linked to that bodhisattva. That is the kind of praying I can do. There is the prayer of gratitude, the prayer of gratitude toward the Buddha Shakyamuni, the first master, and all the lineage of ancestors. There's another prayer. And there is the ultimate prayers, that is the silence of the Zen, that is drawing into the cloud of knowingness. That's my idea of praying.
Me too. Thank you.
Should I say?
I think that maybe you know, because I sent to you the PDF files, but there is also a very interesting essay by Theravada Bhikkhu that is called, I don't remember the title right away, but it's called something like Buddhism Through the Bible.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and he tried to explain why that, just what you are talking about, that idea of wholeness, and come back, the root, that how he considered what the roots are. And then he started analyzing from St. Augustine, through the Romantics. Very, 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 very interesting article about that. And by the way, when I look at you, you seem to me a Catholic priest.
Oh my God, no.
But remember that Father Kaluaki, that is a Jesuit Japanese, is also a Zen master in the Rinzai tradition. So, and the only way that he has difficulties with that idea of Jesus, God, and everything, and then his spiritual leader suggested him to study Zen. Rinzai, huh?
Yeah.
Not Soto, Rinzai. And then he is also a Zen master.
Yeah.
So that two things from the Zen point of view can be combined.
Yeah, but I don't want to be a Catholic priest.
I know.
Because I'm not Catholic.
And you know, when I was in Italy, I was in that temple that we were talking about for the NG last talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sat in meditation with the Benedictines.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They sat with us. So, and that was very interesting. The first time that ever in my life I was grown as a Catholic. That I went to a mass, the midnight mass on the 24th. The first time in my life was in Italy as a Zen priest. Yeah, before I did it. It's so very interesting.
Yeah, but for example, during this interreligious monastic dialogue, the topic was to try to, another time, define what is a monk, trying to find that definition, what is a monk. We couldn't, because there were a lot of different traditions. There was nothing concrete in common, because, for example, there were most of them were celibate. Me and Sufi were not celibate. Most of them, they work, there was segregate, and we are not. So there was no concrete definition of what is a monk. But we do realize that there is something. There is some it that they unify us as monk, as contemplative monk, as a searcher for the way. And we realized, and it was very important, that it was something impossible to define. But there is something, this kind of quality. So I hope that when you say you look like a Catholic priest, I hope I don't look like those Catholic, but I hope I have this kind of it quality that unifies me.
Maybe physical.
Yeah.
Physical, I don't say that.
Ah, physical. Oh my God. Worst.
Don't take it personally, please.
No.
Non ci voglio offendere.
No, non sono offeso. I'm not. So, one time I was working in the center of Rome, and I was dressed. I had the katami, how do you say the undercover for Saint Priest. And one man approached me and said, "Father, may I ask you which order are you from?" I said, "I'm a Buddhist priest." Oh. So maybe you're right, I look like a Catholic priest.